Okay, now we come to Sutta 131, Bhaddekaratta Sutta. This is one of the chants we do in our Pali chanting. Here is translated as one fortunate attachment. This Bhaddekaratta consists of three words. Bhada, Bhada, here is Bhade also, Bhada. Bhada means auspicious, happy, fortunate, even can be used as venerable for somebody who is fortunate, somebody who is auspicious can be called venerable. Eka is one. Ratta or Rati means red or infatuated or attached. So here it translates as one fortunate attachment. But there's another famous monk called Venerable Aananda, and he translates this Bhaddekaratta as the ideal lover of solitude. Bhada he translates as ideal. Ekaratta he translates as attached to Eka. Eka is one, solitude. So somebody who's attached to solitude, lover of solitude. So he calls it the ideal lover of solitude. It's quite a good translation also. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Yetis Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, Venerable Sir," they replied. The Blessed One said this, "Monks, I shall teach you the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the monks replied. The Blessed One said, "Let not a person revive the past, or on the future build his hopes." These two sentences literally can be said to be, let not a person run back to the past, or live in expectation of the future. For the past has been left behind, and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state. Let him know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, by day, by night, it is he, the peaceful sage has said, who has one fortunate attachment. Or, it is he, the peaceful sage has said, who is the ideal lover of solitude. So stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, we should not run back to the past, and we should not live in expectation of the future. Many people, we tend to be the worrying type. So we tend to worry about the future, what has not happened. We keep planning for the future. And then some people always run back to the past. Sometimes they regret certain things that happened in the past, or a broken love affair or something. They keep thinking, and they are not in the present. But the Buddha says, the past has been left behind. The future has not been reached. Let him see each presently arisen state. See the present, know and be sure of it. And the effort must be made today, because tomorrow death may come. So one who dwells diligently, relentlessly, day and night, seeing the present, he is called one who has one fortunate attachment, or the ideal lover of solitude. So this fortunate attachment, what does it mean? It means attachment to cultivating the holy life. He has a lucky attachment. It's not a bad attachment. It's a good attachment. The attachment to practice, to day and night, to practice diligently. So it's also an attachment, but it's a good attachment. How, monks, does one revive the past? Thinking I had such material form or body in the past, one finds delight in that. Thinking I had such feeling in the past, or I had such perception in the past, or I had such volition in the past, or I had such consciousness in the past. One finds delight in that. That is how one revives the past. And how, monks, does one not revive the past? Thinking I had such material form in the past, one does not find delight in that. Thinking I had such feeling in the past, or I had such perception in the past, or I had such volition in the past, or I had such consciousness in the past, one does not find delight in that. That is how one does not revive the past. And how, monks, does one build up hope upon the future? Thinking I may have such material form in the future, one finds delight in that. Thinking I may have such feeling in the future, I may have such perceptions, I may have such volition, I may have such consciousness in the future, one finds delight in that. That is how one builds up hope upon the future. And how, monks, does one not build up hope upon the future? Thinking I may have such material form in the future, one does not find delight in that. Thinking I may have such feeling, may have such perception, volition, consciousness in the future, one does not find delight in that. That is how one does not build up hope upon the future. So here the Buddha says that not to revive the past is not to think about your past 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates that we take to be I or mind, body and mind, and it's also body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. So if you don't take delight in that, then you don't keep thinking about it. And also similarly with the future, don't build up hopes. There are some people hoping that they'll be reborn in heaven with a beautiful body and with psychic powers and all these things. So there's building up hope for the future. So if you don't take delight in the past or the future, then you tend not to think so much of it. And how, monks, is one vanquished or overcome in regard to presently arisen states? Here, monks, an untaught ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, regards material form as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in self, or self as in material form. Similarly, he regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self, or belonging to self, or the self as in the aggregates, or the aggregates as in the self. That is how one is vanquished in regard to presently arisen states. Stop here for a moment. So presently arisen states refers here to the 5 aggregates. Just now that saying by the Buddha, instead with insight let him see each presently arisen state. Let him know that and be sure of it invincibly, unshakably. So this here the Buddha explains that presently arisen states refers to the 5 aggregates. So when you are vanquished or overcome by the presently arisen states, means that you take the 5 aggregates as the self, or as belonging to the self, or the self as in the 5 aggregates, or the 5 aggregates as in the self. So you have this identity view. You take the 5 aggregates, you identify yourself with the 5 aggregates. So that is being vanquished in regard to presently arisen states. And how, monks, is one invincible in regard to presently arisen states? Here, monks, a well-taught noble disciple who has regard for noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, does not regard material form as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in the self, or self as in material form. Similarly, he does not regard feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self, or self as possessed of the aggregates, or the aggregates as in the self, or self as in the aggregates. That is how one is invincible in regard to presently arisen states. Let not a person revive the past or on the future build his hopes. For the past has been left behind, and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state. Let him know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, by day, by night, it is he, the peaceful sage has said, who has one fortunate attachment. So it was with reference to this that it was said, monks, I shall teach you the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So basically what the Buddha explains here is that we should not think about the past, our past in regard to ourselves, which is the five aggregates, and we should not build up hopes for the future, and we should not identify ourselves with the five aggregates. If you don't identify yourself with the five aggregates, then you are invincible in regard to presently arisen states. Also in other suttas, the Buddha says, not only that, we have to examine the five aggregates and see how they are impermanent, how they are dependent on so many conditions, and those conditions itself are impermanent. So that's why our five aggregates are even more impermanent. So don't attach to it. If we attach to it, we are going to suffer. The next sutta is quite short because it's basically the same as this one. So I'll go through it. 132. Anandabhaddekaratta Sutta. Ananda and one fortunate attachment. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Ananda was instructing, urging, rousing and encouraging the monks with talk on the Dhamma in the assembly hall. He was reciting the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment. Then in the evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and went to the assembly hall. He sat down on a seat made ready and asked the monks, who has been instructing, urging, rousing and encouraging the monks with talk on the Dhamma in the assembly hall? Who has been reciting the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment? It was the Venerable Ananda, Venerable Sir. Then the Blessed One asked the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, how were you instructing, urging, rousing and encouraging the monks with talk on the Dhamma and reciting the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment? I was doing so thus, Venerable Sir. Let not a person revive the past, etc. And he repeated the whole of the last sutta up to one who has one fortunate attachment. I was instructing, urging, rousing and encouraging the monks with talk on the Dhamma thus, and reciting the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment thus. Good Ananda, it is good that you were instructing, urging, rousing and encouraging the monks with talk on the Dhamma thus, and reciting the summary and exposition of one who has one fortunate attachment thus. Then the Buddha repeated the whole sutta as before. That is what the Blessed One said. The Venerable Ananda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So this sutta is basically the same as the previous sutta, just that it's spoken by Ananda. I think we can stop here. The next sutta is also quite similar. The next two suttas also is the Bhaddekaratta Sutta. We'll do that tomorrow. Anything to discuss? Yeah. A person who does a lot of evil will fall into hell. A person who does evil not to such a great degree will be born in the animal realm. Animal realm is also a lot of suffering because they eat each other, tear each other up alive. When you are alive, people, some other creature eating your flesh. How do you? That's why you look into the animal world. All the creatures are all very nervous. Very nervous, always frightened, always looking here and there. So these two are very undesirable places of rebirth. It is stated somewhere in the suttas that when a person is in hell, he will remember, what he did that made him come to hell today. He does remember. So if you look into the world, in the newspapers and all that, you see a lot of people doing evil actions, but they don't really know they don't realize that it is evil. For example, there are some people they kill these wild exotic animals. Either they smuggle them or they kill them because some people like to eat their flesh. And all these things, and they think that God made these creatures for you to eat, so there's nothing wrong in killing them. Unfortunately, when they go to hell one day, then they will realize. Last time I read somewhere in the papers that somebody, whether in Hong Kong or in China, they keep this bear, this big bear, and they tap the bile or something from this bear. And this bear is every day is in pain and crying out. This fellow is tapping. When he feels he wants some bile, he takes the bile from this animal. And there are some people, they want to eat the brains of the monkey. They just cut off the top of the monkey's head and scoop up the brain when the monkey is still alive. Imagine he will get that when he goes to hell. Same thing will happen to him. How long he has to experience that in hell.
What happens is after the going to hell, for the person who has any reminder of pleasures in which to go
My personal view is that it's very it's just below our conscious our normal consciousness. In other words, it's in our subconsciousness, but not far away. So that's why there are some people, you ask them to do certain things, they dare not do. For example, to kill a chicken, they dare not do because probably in the past they have suffered for it. Or some people, there's a ample opportunity to commit adultery and all that, they dare not do. So all these things are probably is something from the past that makes them react like that.
On the last couple of suttas and very true. Now, when a person emerges to hell, when when he has exhausted the result of all his previous evil actions, when he comes out from hell, where will he be? He stays.
There is no standard when a person comes out of hell. It depends on his his past karma. There are some, after coming out from hell, they might be reborn in the animal realm because they lack the good karma. On the other hand, somebody like Mahamoggallana, he was Mara in his previous life, and because he did a lot of evil karma towards the past Buddha and the Arhants, he fell into hell. But after suffering for something like 100,000 years in hell, he came out and took a human rebirth, and then from there became an Arahant. So there is no fix. Each person is different, completely different. There is no standard. Because our karma is all different. But in the previous sutta we read last night, the Buddha says, generally, if a person can go to hell, he's a perfect fool, the Buddha says. So being a perfect fool, when he comes out from hell, even he takes a human rebirth, he will be a very unlucky person. He'll be born misshapen, ugly, difficult to earn his living and all these things. No luck, a person with no luck. Because if a person can be such a fool as to create so evil karma, and a little good he has done.
Last few years in the U.S. declared war in Iraq, President George Bush witnessed. He sent his people in, and a lot of people were killed. A lot of Americans and lost civilians were killed. In that sort of situation, who bears the worst karma? Is it the soldiers who were sent into the battleground whereby they were told to shoot? Or is the commander-in-chief who said, look, that's what I want you to do. You're going to go in there, you're going to bomb these people, they're going to kill them.
I think possibly the heaviest karma is the people who decided that there should be war.
I realize that ignorance not only the Dharma or the Dharma, but when one is young, one has to have done and their peace. So what the relationship with the Dharma and the change, there is a
Oh, definitely, because once you know the Dhamma, then you change your character. It's very important to change our character. Once you change your character, then the Buddha says not all karma will ripen. If you do a lot of good deeds, then it kind of cover the evil karma. It's only the heaviest karma that will ripen first. So generally, if you have not come across the Dhamma, most of us in our younger days, we did a lot of bad karma, but it's not really serious. For example, when we are young, we may go fishing and other things. But because it was done out of ignorance and also the intention is very important. If your intention is to make somebody suffer, then the karma is very heavy. But if your intention is not to make somebody suffer, then it's not so heavy. So don't worry about the past karma. What is important is now, whatever good we can do, we do, and the greatest good we can do is in the spiritual path. You see, I always say that when we come across the Dhamma, I tell lay people there are a few things you can do. One is practice generosity. Then after that, practice sila, moral conduct. And after that, listen to the Dhamma. And after that, meditate. And after that, change your character. These 5 things, the easiest to do is charity, dana. But because it is the easiest to do, the merit is the least. Merit is the least. Harder to do is keeping your precepts. Because it's harder to do, is more meritorious. And then the third one, listening to the Dhamma gives you wisdom. So, is more meritorious. And meditation is also very difficult to do, also very meritorious. And then the hardest to do is to change your character for the better. That is the highest, most meritorious. So the last three, listening to the Dhamma, meditating, and improving your character, this is what in Chinese we call Kong Tek. Kong Tek is spiritual merit that brings you out of samsara. Is spiritual merit that helps you on the path out of samsara into nibbana. Whereas the first two, generosity or charity and sila, moral conduct, is worldly merit. Worldly merit that when you come back, you get a better rebirth, you get a happier life, you get a good life, lucky, fortunate life. So these 5 things, remember.
Okay, sometimes it seems one learns to live in a way the hard way. I'm still speaking from my own personal experience. Many years back when I was in the Philippines, a couple of times from my parents were coming. So I believe at that time when we were looking for food, we cook, and we don't have any money whatsoever. But that day, when we got some, I thought it was some edible birds, I just shot it and it fell down. White bird. Some sort of problem. So it was injured on the way. And there is no way that bird is going to survive without the moving fly. And then he started to think up on me. My heart just melts. Why does it take something to teach us, that hey, this is something that shouldn't be. Isn't there any way that as a person, we know some of these things before we does it? Until today, it still comes to you.
You're lucky that you woke up. A lot of people don't wake up. I also heard about one man. He used to go hunting, and he shot a monkey. The monkey fell, and it was a female monkey with a baby. And because of the baby, I think the monkey bowed to him because of the baby. And he saw that. After that, he hung up his gun.
But last time we were talking about the whole law of 20 years, 40 years, going to something, and then but what happens if you do the better and then over there you will see something and I have to do that. So isn't that a way to go up there and then we are just moving up our good habits?
Maybe, but there are 2 types of persons who go up to heaven. The Buddha says there's a Putujana, an ordinary person who does not know the Dhamma. He goes up to heaven, and after that, when he passes away, he may come down to the woeful plains of rebirth. But the Buddha says, Aryan disciple of the Buddha who has learned the Dhamma, one who has obtained right view, if you go up to heaven, you come down, the lowest you can get is the human realm. You will never be born into woeful plains. So you just shuttle between heaven and the human realm until you enter Nibbana. So you are not wasting your time in heaven. It's a rest period. Just like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So you see, our Buddha, before he can become enlightened, he met the previous Buddha, Kassapa, and then he probably attained Sakadagamin. From there, he went to Tusita heaven, had a good rest, came back and strove until they attained enlightenment. He cannot be striving all the time.
In the realm of pure run on wrong from there to achieve the pure status.
The only people who are reborn in the Suddhavasa heavens, the pure abodes, are Anagamins. Anagamins, third fruit Arya. And in the suttas, the Buddha said that to become an Anagamin, you have to get rid of the 5 lower factors. And also you have got to have 4 jhanas, at least 4 jhanas. Because the Suddhavasa heaven is in the 4th jhana plane. So because it is in the 4th jhana plane, unless you have obtained 4 jhanas, you cannot be reborn in the Suddhavasa heaven. And normally to become an Arya, you need 2 basic things. One is a high concentration, samadhi. The other one is vipassana, meaning contemplation of the Dhamma, understanding the Dhamma. If you don't understand the Dhamma, you cannot be an Arya. When you understand the Dhamma, then with a clear mind, that clear mind determines what level of Aryahood you attain. If a person without jhana or without 4th jhana, when he listens to the Dhamma, he might become Sotapanna or he might become a Sakadagamin. But he cannot become Anagamin or Arahant. But a person who has the 4 jhanas or higher, Rupas, when he listens to the same Dhamma, he will either become Anagamin or Arahant. When we sit down to meditate, we should always practice samatha, which is one-pointedness of mind. And this practice of samatha, if you look into the suttas, is synonymous with satipatthana, not like what nowadays some monks say. Remember that day we read the Anapanasati Sutta, where the Buddha says, if you practice Anapanasati, you develop fully Anapanasati, and you are practicing satipatthana. It fulfills the 4 satipatthana. So, in liberation, the Buddha says that you have to practice all the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. In some other sutta, the Buddha also says that to become liberated, samatha and vipassana are necessary. And samatha will lead you to the 4 jhanas. Vipassana means contemplation. And this vipassana is the 7th factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, samasati. Samasati is contemplation of body, feelings, mind and Dhamma. And in the suttas, the Buddha mentioned out of these 4 objects of sati, the most important is Dhamma. Why? Because there are 5 occasions of liberation, 5 occasions when a person becomes an Arahant. And out of the 5, 4 have to do with the Dhamma. Listening to the Dhamma, one becomes liberated. Teaching the Dhamma, also one can become liberated. Repeating the Dhamma, one can also become liberated. Reflecting on the Dhamma, one also can become liberated. So, that's why Dhamma, contemplation of Dhamma is the most important of these 4 objects. So, when you want to practice samatha, it is only sitting posture you can practice samatha. Because to attain the jhanas, you must sit down with your eyes closed. Don't pay attention to sight, sound, taste, the 5 senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, taste and touch. Then only you can attain the jhanas. Whereas contemplation, you can do in any posture. You sit also you can contemplate, you stand also you can contemplate, you walk also you can contemplate, you lie down also you can contemplate. So why should you practice vipassana, contemplation, when you are sitting down? Sitting down is the only occasion you can practice samatha. So when you are sitting down, you should practice samatha and samatha only. But when you are not sitting down, any other posture, you can practice vipassana. Generally, you find in the suttas how the arahants attain enlightenment is they strive very hard to attain jhana. At the same time, they are listening to the Dhamma. At the same time, they are listening to the discourses of the Buddha. And when they have perfected 4 jhanas, they listen to the same sutta and they become enlightened. Just like Sariputta, he, after coming to be a disciple of the Buddha, he strove and after 2 weeks he attained all the jhanas. And then one day he was fanning the Buddha, and the Buddha was talking with an external ascetic. So he was fanning the Buddha and listening to the Buddha talking, and he understood what the Dhamma that the Buddha was teaching, and he became an arahant. So that is vipassana, listening to the Dhamma, contemplating the Dhamma. When you listen, you contemplate. When you are teaching also, you contemplate. When you are repeating, also you contemplate. When you reflect, also you contemplate. So all this is vipassana. So always remember, since sitting is the only occasion that you can practice samatha, and samatha is essential. We read earlier one sutta where the Buddha said, to become a sotapanna, your mind must also be rid of the 5 hindrances. If your mind is rid of the 5 hindrances, then you can attain sotapanna much easier. Much easier. So this jhanas helps us to attain the various stages of Aryahood. Speeds up the process of attaining the stages of Aryahood much faster. So in the spiritual practice, 2 things I always say is very important. One, you sharpen your mind by practicing samatha every day. The other one, either you listen to the CDs on the Nikayas, the suttas, or you can study the books on the suttas. So as you are sharpening your mind and you are studying the suttas, these 2, once you understand the suttas, you become an Arya. The suttas are the fastest way for you to understand the Dhamma. That is why the Buddha took so much effort to talk on 5,000 suttas. If just by contemplation by yourself, it is you can achieve, then the Buddha would not have spoken so many suttas. The Buddha's words are so direct. When we listen to his words and we just contemplate on his words, we can understand much faster than you were to contemplate on yourself, on your own. Parami. Parami. These paramis, if we look into the suttas, the earliest discourses of the Buddha, is never mentioned. These paramis developed later because they, instead of talking about the Arahant path, later books, especially the Mahayana books, they talk about the Bodhisattva path. And then they discourage people from practicing the spiritual path. They say if you practice the spiritual path, you are a selfish fella. You should help all beings in the world. Have a big heart, be a bodhisattva and help all beings. And then one way to discourage you from practicing the spiritual path, they say to become enlightened, it takes 4 asankya kappas and 100 mahakappas. And then they use the Jataka stories to say that the Buddha developed the paramis over a long time. So long, they say 4 asankya kappas and 100 mahakappas, which basically means eternity. Because 1 kappa is an uncountable length of time. 1 kappa, one world cycle. basically. So, no, one asankheya kappa. One asankheya kappa is an uncountable number of world cycles. So, they use the Jataka stories to say that the Buddha practiced the paramis. But when we look into the Jataka stories, we find they are childish stories. They cannot be true. Why? Because they say the Bodhisattva in the past life was a deer or a rabbit. And in these stories, you find the animals can talk. Animals cannot talk. But in these stories, animals can talk. And they behave smarter than many human beings. They talk about the rabbit or the hare sacrificing its body for the hunter to eat, which is ridiculous. And then like Vesantara, Jataka, they talk about the Bodhisattva as a human being to cultivate the parami of giving or generosity. He gave away the wife and his 2 children to a heartless beggar. He knows this heartless beggar is going to torture his wife and his children. And yet, with tears in his eyes, he gave away the wife and children to be tortured. That is extremely selfish. Just because you want to cultivate the parami, you make your wife and your children suffer for you. So this goes against the Dhamma. Because in the Dhamma, the Buddha says, a good man or a wise man's dana or offering must not harm himself, must not harm others. So that being the case, there's no possibility that the Bodhisattva will practice like this Vesantara Jataka. It's logical if you give your wife and your children to a rich, very, very rich man so that they have a good life. Why do you give to a heartless beggar? You know they're going to suffer. Also the other Jataka story about the Bodhisattva, he saw this tigress, hungry, no milk to give the cubs. So he committed suicide, jumped from the top of the hill, kill himself so that he can feed the tiger. This again contradicts the Dhamma. You're harming yourself. Doing charity by harming yourself, this is illogical. If you tell that to some people in other religions, they laugh at you. Buddhists are stupid. Can believe such stories. Yeah, I think Buddhists are stupid if they believe such stories. So these paramis is just a device to get you not to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. That's why they say there are 84,000 Dhamma doors. There are no 84,000 Dhamma doors. There's only one Dhamma door taught by the Buddha, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. When you practice the paramis, all these paramis are worldly qualities. Worldly qualities does not get you out of samsara. Yes or not? 6 paramis by the Mahayanis and 10 paramis by the Theravadins. If you listen to my talk on early Buddhism in India, you realize that Buddhism after 500 years developed into Mahayana and Hinayana. And a few hundred years later, Mahayana and Hinayana merged together. They begin to accept each other's teaching. So these people supposed to be Theravadins, they start to accept the Bodhisattva path. That's why they instead of 6 paramis, they talk about 10 paramis. And then these Mahayanis start to accept what they call the Hinayana Sutras. But in the few hundred years that elapsed, they lost all their Pali Suttas. So they started to look for the Pali Suttas again. And they had to recover what they call the Agama Sutras from various schools. Dhammagupta school and Savastivadin school and one of the Nikayas, I think the Anguttara Nikaya, they don't even know where they got it from. And these Agama Sutras are incomplete. So it just shows they lost their thing. So you have to study the history to understand what happened.
Okay. You see, earlier in the earlier talk of Dhammas, all the Buddhist schools basically believe that Majjhima Nikaya, Bhaddekaratta Nikaya, Anandabhaddekaratta Nikaya. If all the Buddhist schools are looking seems to,
I think you didn't listen to my talk properly. Now, after so many years, now only people realize that the Pali Suttas are the original suttas. Years ago, a few hundred years ago, some of them said they don't want to accept the Buddha's sutras, so they create new sutras. This happened several hundred years ago. It's not now. Okay, shall we end here?